Happy Camper Radio, episode 54. Come on, let's go camping. Hello, my friends. It's good to be back again here at camp, the Happy Camper Radio Show. Hello, Daniel. Glad to have you with us.
Yo, yo, yo.
No ladies today?
They're cleaning my house.
Well, somebody needs to.
Well, exactly. It's not going to be me. I had to lay down the law.
You've got to admit, though, we had an awesome episode last week, didn't we?
Yeah, it was pretty fun.
It was a lot of fun and a little bit of controversy.
Yeah.
But you got to understand something. If we have four people here in the studio, and we are talking about a subject matter that we know one person is not going to agree with us on, it's going to take a little more than 30 minutes to do the show.
I feel like we ganged up on her. It was cool.
You think so?
Oh, definitely.
She was ready for me. At least that's what she said in the early part of the week. But, you know, hey, when she gets around some campers, she sees that, you know, hey, this is cool. This is really what it's all about. No, I can't admit to that. Hey, but anyway, our phone number here at the Happy Camper Radio Show is 404-537-CAMP. You can like us on Facebook at facebook.com/Happy Camper Radio. Add us to your circles on Google+. And
you can tweeter us.
You can tweeter us. Daniel, you've just got me just so wound up today. Yes.
That's what I do.
You
I
can
usually
tweet
do
us.
it to the ladies, but not you.
Yeah, you
Kinda
can follow
weird.
us on Twitter at Camp Talker.
Yeah.
And we do it up right here at the Happy Camper Radio Show. Daniel and I
Let's
have
light
both
that fire. Come on now. I'm getting cold in here.
Daniel and I have both had long days today, but we had to go ahead and get this show done, or we weren't going to be able to get it done at all, which means with your schedule being like it is, Daniel, I would have been stuck here at camp talking to myself, as I have been for quite a few weeks.
Well, you do that a lot. So.
Hey, I have done that, you know, and you have made me talk to myself, too, on a lot of occasions.
Okay. All right.
Hey, before we go, let's say hello to some newcomers here. We have our friends over at wholesalewarranties.com in San Diego, California. The fine folks at RV Consignment Specialists in El Mirage, Arizona. And let's not forget Ron Provenge of Springfield, Missouri. And they all added us to circles this past week on Google+. Welcome aboard, everybody, and thank you for being a part of the Happy Camper Radio Show. Daniel, I have a very important topic that I want to discuss today. I didn't expect you to ever bring this up, but I need to because every now and then, every one of us, and I don't care if you're a camper or a non-camper, but every one of us at some point in our life is going to have some sort of interaction with law enforcement.
Right.
And some people, and I'm telling you this from experience, Daniel, because our longtime listeners know that I am a former law enforcement officer, had been so for like 18 years, and I had met quite a few people over the course of my career. And I can tell you this, Daniel, some people are intimidated by the uniform.
Yeah.
They're intimidated by the authority. And I think it's just a natural reaction to some people. Now, I began my career back in 1988. I retired back in 2005. And during the course of my career, I had interacted with millions and millions of people. I have seen both the good and the bad in people. Now, most people that I have encountered throughout my career were good, law-abiding citizens who wouldn't do anything wrong knowingly. People do make mistakes, all right? And sometimes there are consequences for those mistakes. And a lot of the folks that will run into law enforcement officers who are out in the camping world will most likely run into police officers, deputy sheriffs, marshals, constables in some cases, state patrol out on the road. I can say this, Daniel. What a lot of folks don't understand is in some cases you're going to have rules In some cases, you're going to have laws. And there's a big difference between the two. And campers will understand this when they get to the campsite, when they get out and start doing things while they are on vacation. In some cases, laws have to be obeyed. In some cases, rules have to be obeyed. Now, let's talk about rules here for a second.
Okay.
Generally, rules are going to be imposed by a property owner. Or if it's a corporation that owns this property, they have certain guidelines that they expect everybody to follow while you are on their property. Now, rules are not considered laws. Rules have different consequences. People cannot be cited. They cannot go to jail for breaking rules. I can say this much, and I don't know what the laws are in each and every individual state, but I can say this much. Sometimes breaking a rule can lead to breaking the law. Case in point. If you enter onto somebody's property, and let's say you are encountered by a security guard or maybe a security personnel there, and they say no trespassing, nobody's allowed here. If you remain on that property, then you possibly could go to jail for trespassing. In this state, it's called criminal trespass. I don't know what they call it in other states. But I want to talk about security guards here for a second because, a lot of times folks in a security position are going to be enforcing rules. They are going to be hired for that particular purpose. And, and I got to say this, I have run into some security guards who have taken a pretty bad rap.
Oh, yeah?
They are trying to do their job. People do not respect them the same way they do police officers, because they know they don't carry the authority that police officers do. But what you do have to keep in mind is when you do have somebody in a position of authority, that individual is put there by the person who owns that property. And in the person who, the person who owns the property, in their absence, that individual, be it the security guard or a security officer, if he says you can't be there, that's like the owner saying you can't be there.
Right.
All right. So, you've got to respect them, and you definitely don't want to get into an argument with somebody like that and have a law enforcement officer step into the picture, because if that has to happen, things may get a little ugly.
Okay.
And that's something you don't want. We don't want any problems at all while we're camping. We want to try to make it as exciting and entertaining and as memorable as we possibly can. Now, Daniel, let's talk about laws for a moment.
Okay.
Laws are implemented by local, county, state, or federal authorities. The laws apply to everyone. They apply to you. They apply to me. Everyone. Breaking the laws can result in warnings. They can result in fines, and in some cases, jail time. Now, some infractions may require a court appearance. You don't want to go on vacation. I don't care where you go, even if it's down the street. If you're going to go on a camping trip, if you're going to go on a hiking trip, if you're going to go do something for some entertainment, for some relaxation, you don't want to have the day end up with you getting a citation and a ticket to appear in court. That's the last thing you want to get involved with. Now, the laws differ in many jurisdictions. Breaking some laws can have long-term effects. You don't want anything on your driving record. You don't want a criminal record. And remember this, Daniel, ignorance of the law is no excuse.
How many laws are there, Skip?
You expect me to sit here and count,
Exactly. That's
Daniel.
what I'm saying. I'm coming from the other side. You're supposed to know these thousands and thousands of laws, and then some local policeman in some podunk town, gets in your face and be like, didn't you see that 10-mile speed limit? I was like, yeah, that's a trap, and it's to get money, and it drives me crazy. That's the only time I've interacted with law enforcement, is those stupid speed traps everywhere. And they do it to tourists. They look at your license plate, and they say, ooh, he's from out of town. Pull him over, because he won't fight this, and he'll pay the fine.
You know, I've talked about this before too, Daniel, you know, and I understand what you're saying. And I have encouraged our listeners on many occasions that if they are on vacation and let's just say you're running behind, it's Friday, you've got to be back at work on Monday, you want to take advantage of every single moment that you can to embrace the weekend. And if you're running behind on Friday, I've always told people, wait another day. Because if you start getting into a hurry, if you start rushing and you are trying to beat the clock, you're trying to get to your destination, and you are breaking the speed laws by doing that, you may wind up in one of those situations. Now, I do not condone an officer who does not act professionally.
Mm-hmm. It's not that. It's just the whole money thing.
Exactly. And those fines can be steep. Mm-hmm. And I'm not saying that they're not money makers for a lot of these local jurisdictions, because in today's day and age, there are some of these small towns, these small counties, that they are cash strapped. Mm-hmm. And if you do your research online, if you start looking in certain places, you will find some police chiefs will actually come out and admit, yes, we do this to raise money. Mm-hmm. And sometimes they are put under pressure by the mayor or maybe the town council that, hey, we need to get some money in the coffers here. And the way we're going to do that is by you getting on top of your officers and telling them to write more tickets. Mm-hmm. So, I don't like that. I'm not saying it doesn't exist. It definitely does.
Well, it makes me wary of cops all the time. My whole life, every time I'm around a cop, I'm nervous. I'm like, well, they could just, arrest me and be like, well, we did this. We found this. I don't know. Maybe I watch too much TV, but I don't know. In my case, I feel nervous around them all the time.
And it's a normal feeling, Daniel. And like I said here at the start of today's program, that does happen with some folks. I have been around some folks, and I'm saying to myself, why are these people so nervous? Because I put my pants on the same way everybody else does. Mm-hmm. I'm just as human as you are. Mm-hmm. It's just this is the type of work that I do. Now, there's different types of law enforcement officials that you may encounter. Like I say, you may have a local jurisdiction. You may have the county sheriff, marshal, constable. You may have a run-in with the state police.
Mountie. Don't forget our friends in Canada.
Okay. It could be the park ranger or even a game warden. Mm-hmm. Right? And I'm not saying that you're going to run into these folks for bad purposes. You may have to go up and approach them and ask them for directions, which they'll be more than happy to assist you with. Mm-hmm. So, not every single encounter is going to be bad. But let's talk for a moment about interacting with law enforcement while you are traveling. This is the most important part of your camping experience that I think you need to pay very careful attention to, because in the event you happen to get stopped by a police officer, you want to make sure that you have all of your necessary paperwork at hand. First of all, you should have a valid driver's license. Check your driver's license, look in your wallet, make sure that license has not expired. You'd be surprised how many people right now are driving around with an expired license because they never took the time to realize that the license has expired and they didn't go down to the driver's service office to get it renewed. Mm-hmm. You should have your vehicle registration with you and your valid insurance card. Most states here in this country will require that you have valid insurance on your vehicle. But, if you could live in one of these states that don't have that requirement. But, insurance is a very, very important thing, and we all know that, from where we live.
Well, what if you don't have an insurance card? Because I don't have an insurance card.
I can tell you this much, and I'm only talking from the state of Georgia. But I can tell you in this state here, if you don't have an insurance card with you, the officers have a way of checking that in the system.
I've never had a problem with it.
Yeah, and they can look in the system to find out that whether or not you have valid insurance. Mm-hmm. But it's always good to, if you pay an insurance premium, you should be getting a new insurance card.
I have a card. It's just a little printout. It's nothing, official.
nothing official. It should be official, Daniel.
you can print it off your printer. I mean, I could print one off right now, and it's just a piece of paper, and it has the numbers and everything.
Okay, and if
it's not like a card with a emblem
if it has an expiration date, because that's one of the things they're going to be looking for.
Yeah,
most definitely. And these 3 items right there, you should always be carrying with you on the road. Here's another thing. When you're traveling, I don't care if you're going down the street to the local campground. I don't care if you're traveling across the country. If you are the driver of that vehicle, it's going to be up to you to make sure that every occupant inside your vehicle is properly fastened in a seatbelt. That is going to be your responsibility, and you need to make sure that's not only for their safety, but your safety as well. Always use approved child safety seats when you're dealing with toddlers or infants. Make sure that they are buckled up properly also.
Can you get cited for that? Like if your child seat is not up to the standards of the day, like say it's an old one from the mid 90s or something, and it's not up to snuff of today, they could give you a ticket for that?
I don't believe they can, Daniel. I mean, that's I think a lot of your smart, conscientious parents today will make sure that their youngster, their toddler, or their infant has a proper child safety seat. But as long as they're properly restrained, I can't answer for what all the other states require. But again, we're talking safety here, so that's something you're definitely going to want to do. Also, make sure that you obey all the traffic laws. You cannot go wrong, and never, under any circumstances, drive under the influence of alcohol or drugs. So, if you do the right thing, I'm not saying that you're not going to be stopped by a law enforcement officer. You may roll up on a roadblock. You may roll up on a safety check. We had one here in our neighborhood not too long ago, and I rolled right up on that. And these guys were just super. They didn't choose to be out there. I can guarantee you that one of their supervisors says, here's what we're going to do today, and here's where we're going to do it at. And we just rolled up on it there, and they were checking driver's license, insurance, and registration to make sure everything was okay. So you may, encounter a law enforcement officer under those circumstances. Now, if you are stopped by the police while you are traveling on vacation, whether it's a weekend getaway, maybe it's a week or two that you're going to be away, there's some things that you do want to do, and there's some things that you do not want to do, and we're going to go ahead and cover those. And I'm telling you this again from my experience from being a law enforcement officer, because I have approached a number of vehicles that I had stopped over the years, and I had encountered some of the nicest people in the world. Did everybody get a ticket? No. Did everybody go to jail? No. And a lot of times, it's going to be how you interact with that officer. If they see you're nervous, a lot of times they understand that. But here's what you're going to want to do. If, first of all, you are stopped by the police, you want to pull off safely to the right-hand side of the road. Some people actually stop on the left-hand side of an interstate, and that's not the safest thing to do. Yeah,
they want to put the cop in danger.
And the cop is not going to be in danger, Daniel. He's not going to allow himself to be in that position. And a lot of times they'll get on their public address system and say, go on further down the road, pull off to the right.
Yeah.
They're doing that for their safety and for yours. If you are pulled over by an officer, pull off safely to the right and remain in your vehicle. Do not make any sudden moves, because I can promise you that law enforcement officer, the minute he pulls you over, his eyes are going to be on you and the occupants inside that vehicle. Have your driver's license, your registration, and insurance card ready. When the officer approaches, again, be courteous at all times. Don't give the officer a hard time, because if you do that, you're begging to get a ticket. And you don't want that. You don't want a court appearance. You don't want jail. You want nothing but to be on your way, and the last thing you want to do is have to come back from a camping trip that was supposed to be a memorable experience, and now you have to face a judge later on down the road. You have to face a traffic fine that has been imposed on you because you may have been going over the speed limit. When you are stopped, go ahead, Daniel.
How do you get out of a ticket? What do you need to say? What's the magic sauce, Skip?
There is no magic sauce, Daniel, but
Skip.
I can tell you this. A lot of it has to do with your interaction with that officer. Again, be courteous. Be courteous to the officer. He will inform you as to why you are being stopped. I don't know too many officers today, yet there are some who do it. But they will come out and say, "Do you know why I'm pulling you over?" No, you know why he's pulling you over. You know exactly what you were doing. All right. Now, if you are ticketed for a traffic offense, the officer is going to fill out a citation, and when he presents that for you to sign, definitely sign that traffic ticket. It is not an admission of guilt. Citations are issued in lieu of bond. Now, refusing to sign the ticket in some states will send you to jail. All right. All you are doing by signing that ticket is acknowledging the fact that you have been stopped and you have been cited for a certain traffic offense. Nothing more than that. But if you're going to give that officer a hard time, if you're going to stand there and take a bad attitude, now what I mean a bad attitude, Daniel, well, if you tear up that ticket,
right.
All right. If you refuse to sign it, if you get up in that officer's face, if you start calling him names, if you start using foul language, you're asking to go to jail. Okay? So you've got to keep your cool. That is so important. Now, here's one of the important things I do want to talk about, Daniel, when it comes to interacting with law enforcement, because this right here, of anything that I talk about today, is of the most importance. Right now, I want to talk about police impersonators. What is a police impersonator? This is somebody who pretends to be a law enforcement officer who is not a law enforcement officer. People do this for many different reasons. Maybe they have been a security guard all their life and they never qualified at the police academy. Maybe they couldn't get in. Maybe they had a health reason. Maybe they had something in their background that prevented them from becoming a law enforcement officer.
Maybe they want to rob you.
But they want, yeah, and
that's usually what it is.
That's always a possibility.
They usually want to rob you.
But there are some people that just want to do it for the glory. All right. How can you identify these people? Sometimes they wear uniforms, and sometimes they do carry a badge and they do carry a gun. They pretend to be a person in a position of authority, and that authority they do not have. So what do you look for? How do you determine whether or not the person who is behind you, who is now pulling you over, is a real law enforcement officer? I'm going to tell you some things to look for. Number one, if the individual is in uniform, that person is going to be wearing a uniform that has some identifying marks on it. That should have their name tag. It should have patches on their uniform that identify the law enforcement agency that they represent. The name of that agency should be on their badge. Every law enforcement officer, in addition to the uniform, is going to be carrying a department-issued identification card that is generally signed by the law enforcement head, whether it be the sheriff or the chief.
Okay, so story real quick. So I got in front of this guy one time, and he pulled up beside me, and he showed me a badge, and he wanted me to pull over, like further up down the road. I was like, there is no way. He was in just like a regular van. He wanted me to pull up, a little bit along the way. I got on the phone with like the actual cops and be like, hey, this guy just showed me his badge and, wanted me to pull over. I didn't.
You did the right thing, Daniel.
Yeah.
You did the right thing.
Because I just didn't feel, I think he like worked in the, in the police
You don't know who
area.
he was.
Yeah. I just saw a badge. He thought I cut him off, and
He displays you a badge. This is
yeah.
sometimes called a wallet badge.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
they just
exactly.
flash the badge and
Yeah,
put the wallet
driving.
back. Yeah, right. Okay, no, that is not a typical way a law enforcement officer is going to pull you over. Mm-hmm. All right. Now, I did pull something out of the files here, and I did a little research before we actually went online tonight, Daniel. Mm-hmm. And I pulled the official code of Georgia annotated out because there is a section here that I think is very important, and I'm only speaking for the state of Georgia. Mm-hmm. I'm not speaking for any other state because laws in other states may be different. But I can tell you this much. If in this state you are pulled over by a law enforcement officer for a traffic-related offense, under state law, that vehicle must be properly marked. It has to have the law enforcement agency's name on both doors, and it also has to have the law enforcement agency's name on the trunk of the vehicle in letters not less than 4 inches in height. Mm-hmm. A lot of times when you get pulled over by a law enforcement officer on the freeway, chances are they're going to have lights on top of their vehicle, which is called a light bar.
Right.
And they come in many different fancy shapes and designs today. And, they may be red, they may be blue, they may be a combination of red and blue. Mm-hmm. Where you live, what type of, a law enforcement vehicle has red lights or have blue lights. Here in the South, a lot of them have blue lights. Some have red and blue. All right. But, that vehicle must be properly marked. So what if it doesn't have one of those light bars on top of the roof? Sometimes they have unmarked vehicles and they have a light on the dashboard, otherwise known as a teardrop light. What you can do is if you get pulled over by somebody and you have a funny feeling about whether or not this individual is a uniformed law enforcement officer, what do you do if you don't feel safe? First of all, activate your right turn signal. That is going to indicate to the officer in the back that you are acknowledging him, that you are going to pull over. Keep your right signal turned on. Proceed slowly to a well-lit, populated area. Remain in your vehicle with the doors locked. You can even call 911 or have somebody in your vehicle call 911 to find out if this is a legitimate pullover. Mm-hmm. Let them know the type of vehicle you're driving. Here's the road I'm traveling on. Somebody is behind me with their lights activated. Is this your agency? Is this one of your officers? And they can tell you, yes, it is. Mm-hmm. All right. And then you know that you are dealing with a legitimate law enforcement officer. If you get to that safe, well-lit, populated area, and why, Daniel, am I saying that? Because criminals do not like an audience.
Right.
If you pull into a convenience store, there's a lot of pedestrian traffic there, and folks see you coming, being actually pulled into that lot there, and somebody pulling in behind you. A lot of times, if this is a fake cop, he is not going to want to get out and make a scene. Mm-hmm. Especially if there's a real police officer parked in the convenience store.
Yeah. And
they do frequent them places quite often. If the individual comes up, you can feel free to ask for identification. Show me your identification, show me your ID card.
Right.
And if you're still uncertain, you have the right to request a supervisor come to the scene. Mm-hmm. So, these are some of the things that you can do and some of the things that you can watch out for in the event that you are encountering a law enforcement officer while you are vacationing, while you are camping. We want you to be careful. We want you to be safe. And you can't go wrong by obeying the law. Remember, you're there to have fun. You're there for your family to have fun as well. We want you to be safe. And believe me, the police who are out there working and out there doing their job, they want you to have a good time too. They don't want to have any bad encounters with anybody. Most of the law enforcement officers that you're going to encounter are very good, well, professionally trained officers. They're very courteous. They're very helpful. And they are there to look out for you. It is time now for our featured campground of the week right here on the Happy Camper Radio Show. All right, Daniel, we are going to go to the state of Wisconsin this week. Grant River, Wisconsin.
Are they thawed out yet?
I would
Do you
hope
think
so.
the snow is gone?
I would hope so, because this campground is now open for business. In fact, it opened up on Friday, April the 11th, and their season runs all the way through Saturday, October the 25th of this year. It's a great campground, a great destination, and it's a place to consider if you happen to be visiting Wisconsin or traveling on through anytime this year. Talk about fishing. This campground sits right on the Mississippi River and draws crowds of anglers each and every year. This place is known as the catfish capital of Wisconsin. Other species, of course, inside the river include bluegill, walleye, crappie, northern pike, and bass. So, if you know all about that, if you're fishing, make sure you bring your fishing rod, your tackle box, and all your good things. And make sure that you get a fishing license while you're there. Because, again, we're talking about interacting with law enforcement. You don't want to have a bad rap with the game warden while you're out there camping. They have a picnic shelter there, playgrounds for the kids, a lot of great amenities and activities, an accessible boat ramp, accessible sites. I think there's like 78 of them there, an amphitheater, emergency phone service, a campground host, a self-pay station for the walk-ins, and I think the walk-ins are on the weekends, but during the week you can make your reservations. And if you haven't already registered for an account at recreation.gov, go right to the featured campground page on our homepage, and the button is right there on the right-hand side of the screen. It'll pull it up, Grant River, Wisconsin. In the upper right-hand corner is the gray button that says sign in or sign up. It only takes you a couple minutes to do that. It doesn't cost you a dime, and it makes your reservation process so much easier anytime that you use recreation.gov. It's our featured campground of the week. It is Grant River, Wisconsin, right here on the Happy Camper Radio Show. And as always, if you have a campground that you would like Daniel and I to feature on the program, all you've got to do is send me an email, Skip, S-K-I-P, at happycamperradio.com, and his name,
Daniel at happycamperradio.com.
The guy, believe me, loves fan mail, folks. Keep it coming because it keeps him happy.
That's true.
Don't forget, you can catch us online anytime at www.happycamperradio.com. Like us on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter at Camp Talker. And add us to your circles on Google+. For some reason, I couldn't get that out at the beginning of the show, Daniel, but I did it now.
There you go.
The Happy Camper Radio Show is a presentation of Skip Huber Productions. I'm Skip. I am a happy camper. Daniel's a happy camper. Woo. And my friends, you can be a happy camper too. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll catch you next week. This is Happy Camper Radio.